Kyle Roof, lead SEO at high voltage, all the way from Thailand, man. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So how did you, we got to jump right into it. How did you end up in Thailand, man? We were talking earlier. I was there almost 30 years ago. So it was cool then. Is it still cool?
It's amazing. So I live in the place that people don't think of. I think people think of Bangkok, perhaps, huge city with a lot of people, party never stops. Or they think of like the beautiful beaches in the south, but I live in Chiang Mai, which is all the way up in the north. There's a huge SEO conference in Chiang Mai, and I spoke at it in 2019. And
Oh,
while on that trip, my wife and I have been threatening to leave the US for a while to find another spot. And Chiang Mai really ticks all the boxes. And if you're in digital marketing, if you're in SEO, it's really hard to throw a rock and not hit a really high level digital marketer here. There's an excellent community for digital marketing and SEO here, in addition to living just a pretty good life.
very nice. Is the weather still mild up there, or is there like an altitude, you kind of in the mountains, or what's it like?
So Thais will tell you that it's cool, but that's definitely a relative term for Thailand. But like right now, it's actually really, really nice. Right now, it's about 80, say 2 degrees
Oh,
as a high right now. It's super nice right now, but
yeah,
there is no getting around the heat. Like in a couple months, it will be quite hot. And
yeah,
even though for Thailand it's a little bit cooler here than maybe in the south, it's still pretty warm. It's
yeah,
very
cool.
warm.
Your wife's American?
Yes, yes. And my
So
little guy, he's 8 and he's going to international school, and they're all doing pretty well.
nice. So it was like y'all are just both explorers. Like my wife wouldn't go for that, man. She doesn't even like travel. Like she'll fly to Hawaii, and that's about it.
Well, um, yeah, so my wife and I, we did live in Korea for 5 years. In a previous life, we were attorneys, and
Oh,
we were trial
gotcha.
attorneys, and we were pretty burnt out, and we decided to take 1 year off. And we did the most logical thing you can imagine, and we just we moved to South Korea, teaching English, and that 1 year turned into 5. And then after that stint, we went back to the U.S., and then from there we were kind of looking at finding another location to have another little adventure, and that's how we ended up in Thailand.
Yeah, I was stationed in Osan, Korea, 93,
Hmm.
94. That's how I went to Thailand. We went on vacation, or took some leave. We just had a big inspection, and went with a bunch of guys to Phuket. And yeah, actually, I met a girl out there once. She was from my hometown. I was in a suburb of Houston, and she was from the same area. She was teaching English up in
Okay.
Seoul. So, so you just downsized and like just said, hey, we just need to change a pace.
Yeah, we said like let's just take 1 year and like refresh the batteries. I was doing divorce custody and support, and I kind of like I'd rather chew on shards of broken glass than do one more divorce. And my wife was doing violent crime. She was doing rape, robbery, murder, and that's pretty taxing. It's not fun. Neither of those are fun for different reasons.
Yeah, that's
And we just like,
rough.
let's just take some time off, and find kind of the least amount of responsibility kind of a job. I mean,
Yeah,
and a job where you kind of feel good about going too, where you feel like you're contributing. And
yeah, man. Amen.
our while we were there, we ended up starting a business with a Korean business partner, and we needed to build a website for that. And it was a pretty complex website, and I had to go through a lot of developers. And in doing that, I had this team of developers, and I thought I could probably general contract websites. Like this team is that strong, and that's what I started doing. And that lots of twists and turns. We can go into those if you'd like. But from there, that's when kind of going from building the websites into marketing the websites and then into SEO.
Gotcha. Have y'all kept up your law licenses?
We are still licensed. We're both licensed in Virginia. They have this thing called an associate membership where you don't have to do your like continuing legal education.
Yeah.
But if we wanted to switch it back on, we could at any moment and go right back to it. It was, especially when making the transition into going into marketing, into doing SEO and stuff like that, it was a good fallback plan. Like worst case scenario, we can go back and be lawyers, and there are worse fallback plans. There's worse safety nets.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
fortunately, we didn't have to do that, and we're able to kind of persevere with the marketing agent and starting like my SEO agency in 2013, 2014, and being able to kind of push through to where we are today.
Man, if I'd have known you were a lawyer and an SEO guy, I don't know if I'd have had you on the podcast, man. That's two
That's fair.
strikes against you. I mean, that's
That's
just like
fair.
shark and sharker.
That's very fair. I get it. I get it.
uh,
If it makes you feel
so,
better, I don't think I was that good as a lawyer.
all right, fair enough. So, you partner with a guy in Korea. Did you know anything about SEO when you got into this?
Well, I can tell you that story if you'd like. So we were doing pretty well, and I brought my brother into the company initially, and he codes. He does web design and development. And then I got the bright idea. I was like, we've got all these Indian freelancers. What if we just go to India and we open up a company there? And so that's what we did. We found a small city in kind of the northeastern corner of India, opened up a business, and we were told you're going to get a shakedown from the police, and because that's just kind of how it works. And my brother was in India at the time. I was back in the US. There's a knock at the door. It's the police, and they say, we need to see your business papers. And he shows the papers, and they say, these are the wrong papers. And he goes, okay, you know, how much do you want? And instead of asking for the bribe, they put him in handcuffs and threw him in jail. So my brother's in an Indian jail, and he's talking to the chief of police, and the chief of police goes, these could be the right papers. I don't know. You have two choices. One, you can leave town tomorrow, or two, you can sit in jail and wait for the magistrate to come, and the magistrate will sort this out. And my brother goes, well, when does the magistrate come? And the chief of police goes, I don't know. So my brother goes, I think I'll leave town tomorrow. So he runs back to the office. He grabs what he can. Of course, our employees have fled because they don't want to be involved in this. We get my brother back to the US, and we're hemorrhaging clients because we can't service anything. And so he basically goes, I can take these 4 clients because he can code. He does web design and development. I cannot code. And we had just taken on some clients to do this thing that I just heard about called SEO. And basically for me to pay the rent next month, I had to learn SEO that day. And that's
And
basically
when was
what I
this?
did. This was 2013, 2014. And it was just like, I got to do this right now. And in order to keep those clients, and then it turned out I was pretty good at it. I was able to get results. I was able to grow. And then a few months later is when I met my business partner. He actually hired me for a project, and we worked on that project, and then we worked on a couple more. And then he was like, should we just start an agency? And I was like, I think that's a good idea. And so he and I,
So had you stopped teaching, or were y'all still teaching as
yeah,
well?
yeah, we had stopped, and we were kind of transitioning out of that, and then kind of looking for the next thing. And this had a lot of potential, kind of doing the web design and development and also the marketing behind it, not anticipating the whole you're about to lose your whole company incident in India. That was not part of the plan. But from there, though, getting more and more into SEO, and then I was able, quite through luck, found my business partner.
Mhm.
And we opened up the agency. And what was kind of funny, so he was based in Berlin. He's Australian, and he was kind of going back and forth between Berlin and Australia. And I was in the US at the time, and we opened the agency. We instantly had like multi-continental agency, not just multinational, but like spanning 3 continents. And it looked very, very sexy on business cards, but it was really
Mm.
just the 2 of us to start. It's kind of how it
Yeah.
went.
Things are rarely what they appear to be, huh?
Yeah, but then it grew, and we're at the point with 31 employees, and we do local to national, international to e-commerce to everything in between.
Yeah. Did you ever see the Key and Peele episode where he's a substitute teacher?
I have, yeah. Aaron.
I know you never did anything like that in Korea, right?
No, but it was really funny. They put me in a public school, and they thought it was a great idea for me to teach kindergarten. And it really wasn't a class until I made a kindergartner cry. They're like, nothing I was trying to do, but at some point one of them's crying, and I'm like, what is happening right now?
So, so I graduated from the Air Force Academy May 27th, 1992. And I immediately have to start summer school at Texas A&M because they're sending me there to get another degree. And I had some buddies stationed in Corpus Christi. So I forget now, I had a motorcycle, rode down to see them. They would hang out during the summer. Like they were waiting for their pilot slots to open up. So like, we got to do something with these dudes. 22 years old, just freed up after 4 years of prison at the academy. Right. And they're teaching English to Hispanic. kids. And so this was way before Key and Peele, right? This is 92. And my buddies were doing that. You know, Gonzalez, you know, Rodriguez, and I don't know. We're terrible humans, but we laugh then, and I laugh at Key and Peele. But I digress. So how did you immediately start having success with SEO? Was it easier back then? Was it just a matter of just being honest and stating things plainly? Like, did your writing experience from law school help?
Well, I think what helped from law school is the analytic part of it and problem solving. You know, a lot of law is you're here and you need to get to there. And how can you do that? And you need to be able to connect dots that aren't always the easiest dots to see. But you know, when I first started, I would do the search like, you know, is this a ranking factor? Should I do this? And you get 3 yeses, 3 nos, and 3 maybes. And I realized that's a pretty miserable way to do it. And then I was like, oh, you know, what's happening is people aren't saying what they're doing. They're running their own tests on Google's algorithm. And so I put together a way to test the algorithm and where you can find out if something is or is not a ranking factor. In 2015, I spoke at my first conference, and it was a pretty high level conference. There are only about 40 or 50 people there, and they're all high level. And I was going to talk about what I had put together on how to test the algorithm. And it was the kind of conference where people there can chat with you, right, while you're on stage. And I really thought this would be a discourse. I'm doing it this way. How are you guys are doing that? How are you guys are doing it? And about 5 minutes into it, I realized nobody is doing this. And from there, I was kind of able to take that into, okay, this is the method that I'm using. And I ended up turning that into a patent. And I have a US patent for this method to determine if something is or is not a ranking factor within Google. And then I was able to kind of then transition to the tests that I was doing. I found out that people would be interested in seeing those tests, and turning that into a kind of being able to kind of validate what we're doing, and showing like clients, for example, that we're not going to test on your website. We aren't guessing. You know, we actually have test environments, and the things that we do, we know will move the needle.
So how much upkeep does that take? Because I mean, we're always reading about Google updating the algorithm. But you've been doing this now for several years. Are there like some fundamentals that never change, or do you always have to be tweaking this thing?
No, that's exactly right. There are some fundamentals that never change. The important thing to understand is the only people that really complain about Google results are SEOs. The people that use Google like it, and that's why they've got 104% of the market share. And for Google, it doesn't really make any sense for them to make huge changes because that costs money. And really what they're trying to get are the people that are on the fringes that are really kind of gaming the system. But if you think about a bell curve with like 80% in the middle and like, you know, 10% on either side, Google's going for that. That's what those updates go for. But the core part of it doesn't change. And so in 2015, I showed that they're the top 4 places to put a keyword on a page, you know, a term that you want to win. And those are still the top 4 pages, top 4 places today. And that's your title tag. That's the title that search engines see. Your H1, which is the title that humans see in paragraph text and P tags, and in your URL. Those are the top 4 places that they have been, and they will continue to be for quite some time.
P tag? What you say?
Paragraph tag, like regular text. So
Oh,
the text that you see on the page, but it is important to make sure that it's actually in HTML. That's the language that websites use. Some modern systems actually just kind of put into div tags, which are nothing. It's just an area on the page. So you do want to make sure that you're using correct HTML because it is helpful for Google.
gotcha. Yeah, I kind of self-taught myself when I was starting out. I had a lot of websites, but my main one, the Sales Whisperer, I moved from WordPress to HubSpot. And I don't know when, like 2015 timeframe, I guess. And been there ever since. And they've got some good fundamental. I mean, they started as really as an SEO tool. But sometimes I'll see like something, like if I copy and paste something over, it'll be just in the div. And I was like, why? And the formatting's off. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, why does it default to that sometimes? Because I stopped studying SEO and I never knew HTML. I knew enough HTML to troubleshoot stuff when my VA was sleeping and I had
Sure.
to fix something.
Sure thing. No,
Uh,
that's important to check because from time to time you will you like put something in a little container and it looks nice, and it looks like
yes,
nice to you, but it really doesn't look nice to Google because Google can't see the page. Google needs
right,
to find the tags. That's actually through testing one of the biggest things that I found is that Google can't read. Like Google is powerful and absolutely amazing, but Google can't read as a human will read, and we want to project onto Google that it can. But you have to understand that Google's an algorithm, and you have to give the algorithm what it needs in order to understand what your page is about. And that's where it's very important, for example, to make sure that you're not just putting things into an empty container, because
right,
Google will get there eventually, but there's no point in making it harder for Google when you're trying to rank.
right. So are you doing things like this page optimizer pro? Is this like an SEM rush kind of thing? Like where do you fit? Because I've dabbled with all these different tools, but again, I don't do SEO. So it's like I've never wanted to spend, $1,000 a month or whatever BS some of these companies charge. I'm like, good thing I got good friends. They're like, you can piggyback on mine. I'll run a report for you real quick. And HubSpot's tool is pretty good. And like we were talking about before we hit record, like I've never gamed the system. I could be better at SEO, but just being consistent and honest has produced results for me, but
No,
where do
that's
you
the right
sit?
approach.
Yeah,
And that's the right approach for sure. So SEMrush, a tool like that is all inclusive. They're going to look at a lot of different things, and they're going to help you with keyword research. They're going to look at your backlinks. They're going to do a lot of stuff like that. Page Optimizer Pro is laser focused on page SEO, so like the words that you see on the page. And we're also priced. Our unlimited plan is $44 a month. And the
oh
reason that
nice.
we're doing that is we want to price ourselves so you don't have to choose between us and another tool.
Yeah,
Um, we're also we're kind of we the tool came out of the agency. This is the on-page work we were doing, and we turned this into a script, and then we turned it into a Python script, and then we brought it out as this particular tool. But we kind of brought it out because we want to give enterprise level data to people at not an enterprise level data price. The idea is
yeah,
that you can use this and you can compete against huge because we're going to help you do some edge analysis. But what the tool is going to do is you kind of put in your page, and then we'll find your competitors for you, or you can put in your competitors, and then we're going to tell you where you can get edges on your competitors with the words that you put on the page and the specific places that you put them. And
gotcha.
so basically the idea is the number one thing you control, the main thing you control is what actually goes onto your site. And so we're going to help you get the best foot forward, like kind of give you the best opportunity to rank with the content that you're going to rank.
Hmm. So what does that mean when you say on page SEO? Like what types of
It's
SEO are there?
The three main would be on page, off page, and technical. So technical is kind of ground zero. The idea is, can Google find your site and can Google crawl through your site? Would be those aspects, and they're very fundamental. And it doesn't matter actually what you write on your page and how many links you've got going to your site or how much press you get. If Google can't find your site or Google can't crawl your site, then all that's for naught. So technical SEO is usually not anything that actually helps you rank better, but it makes sure that you can rank in the
Right.
first place.
Sure.
On-page SEO would be the words that you put on your site and the place that you put those words, because Google isn't looking at the page as a whole. It's looking at very specific places on your page for words to understand what the page is about. And then if it likes it better than other content that is out there. The last type is called off-page SEO, and by and large, this is what we can call backlinks. These are signals where somebody says that this is authoritative or this is worth looking at. And a backlink is where somebody else has a link on their site, and when it's clicked, it comes to your site. That's a backlink. And basically, you can consider it a vote. That's a vote that somebody said this is good content, but not all votes are equal. For example, let's say you have a sports site. You could get a link from ESPN.com, or you get a link from joesports.com. ESPN obviously is like one of the top 10 websites in the world. And so when they give you a link, that's worth more than joesports.com is the idea. So you want to think about the volume of links you have and then the quality of those sites. And Google counts those votes and counts the quality as well. And that's off-page SEO as the third type.
Hmm. And so in your world, what you're doing both as an agency and with your program is strictly on page, or do you do some services for off page? or even technical?
The tool itself is all on page. Within the agency, we do obviously try to get votes for our client sites for sure. It is important to note though that the better your on page is, the fewer votes you need. You know, the more you can dial in the content you have, the less you
Right.
need of outside influence. And also, you know, those things go away. You know, links lose value over time. They might go away. You know, the site that was linking to you might not link to you anymore, or Google might decide it doesn't like those links anymore. And so the thing that you can do the best is getting that is dialing in that on page, dialing in the content that you have so that you aren't affected by Google updates. You don't risk losing, link rot is the idea. The links kind of just go away.
Yeah.
The more you do with your on page, then the less you have to rely on off page SEO.
Yeah. Um, so how important is a homepage versus the rest of the website, right? Because I see some people, you got to pack this thing. You got to scroll for an hour and pack it with all these words and links. And others are like, keep it super simple, few points of navigation. You want people clicking and going deeper into your site because Google's looking at, not only dwell time, but are they clicking through and visiting more pages? And it's like, what the hell? What do we do?
Well, I think of the homepage as a business card. This is you telling the world what your company is all about. And I think you can do the same thing for Google and for SEO. So I think you should use your homepage to say, this is what my site is. This is what my company is. This is what we're all about. Because it is important for you to own your brand name. When people search for your brand, when people search for your company, you want to make sure that you come up first and you're controlling that narrative. You don't want your competitors to take that space. You don't want something random to take those space. You want that space, and your homepage is the best place to do that. You also want to identify to Google, are you a company? Are you an organization? Are you a nonprofit? Like, what are you actually doing? And your homepage is a great place to do that. Inside your website, so your .com/internal page, that's where you want to go after the terms that are important to you, that somebody might be searching for to find your products or your services. And so use the internal pages for ranking, use the homepage for your brand.
Ranking and brand. All right. So to summarize even more, or maybe to clarify this summarization, um, does it need to be long? I'm always telling people, regardless of the business, put some humans on your page. I see these very technical companies, and it's all technical screenshots or, animations of technical things that they do. And I'm like, can you show a human being, maybe standing at the control panel, and things like that? So, because you say it's a business card, but then some people are like, well, we're super technical. But then I like, okay, well, let's look at Apple. I always try to, when in doubt, go look at Apple. And I mean, they
No,
big
that's a
pictures,
great point.
big blocks, simple text. Obviously, you can get super deep, but I mean, is that good advice?
Well, I mean, you do want to cover your products and your services, but I think the point that a lot of people miss is that they often don't know how the layman will search for their products and their services. They want to get extremely technical. It's called the XYZ 9000, but nobody actually knows that. But a good way to figure out what people actually might be searching is listen to a sales call. Listen to how people describe your product or your services, how they are discussing that with your sales team, and that's likely how they are searching. And then those are the pages that you want to create. You want to create
Mhm.
pages for how a human would be actually looking for your product and services, that would then be the keywords, for example, that you would go after.
Yeah. You mentioned on the on-page SEO, so like not only the words, but where they are. What does that mean? I mean, I'm putting words where they need to be. If I'm writing to a human, aren't I just putting words in order? And it's a logical flow, kind of telling a story, kind of explaining things.
Oh,
Do I need to be
I'll
more
take you
strategic?
back to sixth grade, and you're in English class, and Miss Carlisle told you need to write a Roman numeral outline before you write your content.
Yeah, but you know what?
And
She never liked me, man. So look,
yeah,
I'm having some flashbacks. Let's not
I
go
know.
there.
So here's what people do is they sit down and think they can just write something. right? And they were like, oh, I wrote a thing, but it has no structure. And humans hate to read without structure. And it turns out so do search engines.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do is actually do that Roman numeral outline and then fill it in, because then it translates directly to an HTML outline. So your Roman numeral one, well, that's your H1, that's your title. That's the title of the search. That's the title that humans are going to see when they come to your site. Your A, B, C, and D, those are your H2s. That's another heading tag within HTML. Then you've got your kind of inside points. That would be where your P tags are, your paragraph tags, or maybe H3s for more clarification. And so that's
Mhm.
really what you need to put together when you write effectively for humans. But it also turns out that's how you write effectively for search engines.
Yeah. It's funny. I tell people I've got a copywriting class, and uh, one of their assignments is to write their first book. Uh, and I'm like, look, it can be short, but get the headline right,
Mm.
and then just start breaking it down. If you're an expert in your field, you should be able to rattle off. Like if I say, what's the number one thing I should do in SEO, and so you would just tell me and say, okay, now on that, break it down in order of priority. And so maybe you go on page, off page, technical. Okay. So now we got 3 sections. All right. And now are there 5 or 7 or 10 things with on page I should consider? Oh yeah. And you rattle those off. Okay. And as you go through that, I'm like, there's your outline. Now, you come up with 7 to 10 sections. Each of those have 3 to 7 to 10 subsections, and you write 3 or 4 pages for each. All of a sudden you got 150, 180, 200 page book. Put in some screenshots, you're up to 250. There's a real book. And they're like, oh wow, I didn't think they, they think too big. It's like, get down in the weeds to fill in the gaps. But at least with an outline, now you're not staring at a blank screen,
No,
right?
you're 100% right. The parallels between writing a book and doing a website are one to one.
Yeah.
It really takes organization, it takes planning, it takes structure, and at times it's super overwhelming. I think most people have thought like, oh, I could write a book, and they sit down to try to write that, but they don't do exactly what you talked about. They don't take the time to outline this book. They just think they can just start writing. It's the same thing with a website. People think they can sit down and just start writing, but where are you going with that? You really do need to structure things. You need to set it down. And so you got 2 types of structure with a website, and then you actually do with a book, right? You've got the chapters, that main portion of it. And then within each chapter, you've got the breakdown there. And so with a website, you've got your top level pages, kind of that navigation. And then within each of those pages, you do need to break down the outline for each one of those. So
Yeah.
100%. And people really get into the weeds and lost because it really didn't
Yeah.
take 15, 20 minutes at the beginning to do that outline that Miss Carlisle made you do, and you really hated it because you had those flashbacks to that.
Yeah. But most people, man, they hate writing. And look, from what I've seen, rightly so, because most people I run across, they're terrible at writing. Um, can somebody that's a bad writer be good at SEO?
Oh, 100%. um and I think the first thing would be doing that structure. I think structure will help a bad writer be good. And I think the reason a lot of people are bad at writing is because they try to go too far afield. They really try to get out into the weeds rather than just answering basic questions. And if you think about, what's a question somebody would ask about my product or my service or the thing that I'm doing, and then just answer that question, you're gonna do a lot better in all things. Writing just an email
Yeah.
to writing a website, to writing your book, you're going to do a lot better just kind of sticking to what the actual thing you should be writing about. I heard a good example once on this was an art. The idea was draw an apple. So some people will sit down and they'll just try to start drawing an apple from their memory, but what artists will do is they'll go and look at an apple. The idea is that there isn't any reason to try to like go too far out, and try to recreate something. You can actually get to the apple and then do a nice drawing of it. I think it's the same thing in writing. There's no point in trying to make something up or reinvent the wheel. Go and get the answer and then structure that answer and then put it down into your book or your website.
Yeah. I took a drawing, I guess, drawing class. This guy that I know is a cartoonist, I guess. You know, he published in, you know, the New Yorker and magazines like that, like the one panel kind of.
Yeah,
Is that a comic? I guess I don't know.
I'm with you.
And it was awesome getting his insight. You know, but I would ask, like some of these things are so realistic. He's like, yeah, dude. He says, like, we're all tracing. He's like, if we need something technical, you know, we'll just find an image, we'll trace over it, you know, we'll tweak it. But I'm like, oh, phew. I'm like, I can't just sit here and close my eyes and envision this elaborate scene. You know, it's like, I'm not that good.
And
Okay,
it turns
good.
out nobody is. Nobody is. You know, we have a saying in
Yeah.
law too, don't reinvent the wheel. And like, you're not going to create new law. You need to go find the law that exists or the facts or the argument that exists. And
Yeah.
that's what you need to make. You don't need to create anything new.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So in law, you've got your promulgated forms, right? And I guess artists have promulgated images. Like, so
You can take that into SEO as well. And that, you know, we talk about the secret is hiding in plain sight. Google shows you the sites that it likes. There's no reason for you to have to imagine what Google wants to see for a certain thing. Do the searches that are important to you and then look at those sites, and that's what you want to emulate. Look at those pages, and that's what you want to do. You don't want to give Google anything new. You want to give Google what it's expecting and then just do it a little bit better. But you don't have to well, how can I do this? Well, Google will actually show you what it is. You know, do the searches, and then those are the pages you need to create.
well, but can a small company compete against a big one? Because, like, how much does volume take into consideration? You know, if you got a big competitor and they just put out a lot more content, can the small guy rank ahead of them?
Yeah, fortunately, you know, the big guys are usually focused on maybe that two-word phrase. You know, the thing that is like massive and has the most volume, but the thing they're not focusing on are kind of those longer phrases. Maybe long tail is a term people might know. So they're not really focusing in on those longer tail phrases. And the thing is, you can win those. And often those have better buyer intent. When somebody is doing that longer search, they're not doing an informational search. They're not looking to see like, what is this thing? But they're actually looking to buy that thing. And so you as the smaller person can go after those longer phrases, win those, and actually get very targeted traffic. So it's obviously less traffic, but it's extremely targeted to what you're trying to do and what you want people to do when they get to your site.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've actually explained that to people. You know, it's like there's a difference between flat panel TV versus 80-inch flat panel TV versus Sony, you know, ABC flat panel TV. So,
Exactly right.
you know,
You know, because
they're
flat
closer
panel
to
TV
buy
might
by
be
the
somebody
inch.
looking for a definition. They're like,
Yeah.
what is a flat panel? And that's not anybody that's looking to buy. But when you get into very specific details about it, that's somebody that's looking to buy that specific thing.
Yeah.
And you can win those terms.
Yeah. Cool. Does do pages need the depth? Like, is it okay to just have your H1 title and then some content? Or do I need to have a couple of H2s and an image with a caption and, you know, alt text and include an audio or a video as well? You know?
Yeah, this is where you want to look at the pages that Google is rewarding. So from time to time, let's say somebody's got a product, right? And they're like, well, I optimized my product page and I'm not winning it, right? And then you go and look at what Google's rewarding. Google has no products, you know, in page one or page two. So it doesn't matter how well you optimize that product page when Google is rewarding long articles, you know, maybe like a listicle, like the top 10 whatevers. That's the page you need to create. So when you look at that, it's not a one size fits all sort of thing on I need to create this type of page every time. You need to look at what pages Google is rewarding. That's the page you need to create. So it could be the title with two different sections. It could be just the title, or it could be several, like a category type page. It could be a single product type page. But you need to see what is actually in there, what Google wants to rank, and then that's what you need to go out and create.
What's the longest you've had a page stay in a good ranking position without tweaking it?
That's a great question. Without tweaking, um, if
Does
you
it have
let
to
it
be
sit,
like really niche, maybe?
probably if you let it sit, you will drop at some point. Especially if like you busted in. So you weren't there for years because there's a certain amount of inertia a page that is on page one will stay there longer, the longer it's there, and so there is that form of inertia. But if you say launch a page and you hit page one, there is a chance you can drop and drop within a reasonable amount of time if you're not doing anything to that page. And the concept there is that the goalposts do move, when people do optimize pages, because a lot of times people think they're the only one doing SEO. I think they're the only ones that have done SEO. So when they hit page one, they seem to forget that somebody was probably on page one that wanted to be there. And so they're going to go out and do something, and they're going to try to optimize their pages. And in that optimization, you need to see how the environment shifts, and you need to tweak your pages accordingly. So it's the kind of thing, at least quarterly, you probably want to look at where you're at and where your competitors at, and if any of the benchmarks have changed in order to stay on top. At least, say like at least maintain your position.
So what would have to be changed or updated? I mean, because if something is on page one and it's all honest, good content, am I changing sections? Am I swapping out videos?
More than anything, it's probably adding sections. So it's growing the page, because more questions will come up. If you do a search for a particular term, there's a section called people also ask. Those are questions that people are asking about that particular thing. Those change. The questions that people have about a particular thing change. And those are excellent then to slowly but surely add to your page in order to make sure that your page stays relevant. Because let's say you did something in 2020, is that relevant today? Should Google continue to keep that page on page one? Is it still relevant? And if you're not tweaking it so that you're answering the current questions about it, or you're still within that current conversation, then it's likely that Google will take that away. And not because Google's making a value judgment, it's because other people are answering those questions.
Sure.
Your competitors are putting that information on their pages, and their information is just more relevant, it's more current. So you can't just like set it and forget it. You need to see what the conversation is as it develops, and then tweak your page accordingly.
What should you do with old pages? Including like blog posts. If something's old, like my site's old, right? I mean, I've 16 going on 17 years. I've got old blog posts that like aren't relevant. Talking about a conference, like I was real big with Infusionsoft for many years, and I may have a post about an upcoming conference from 2017. Should I just kill it? Should I redirect that URL? Should I keep it there and maybe update the link to 2019, 2020, 2023? Like what? But I mean, nobody's looking for conference info from 3 or 5 or 7 years ago, for anything.
That's actually the first step. You don't want to make that assumption. Because maybe that main phrase people aren't searching for, that page could still actually be very valuable. It still could be ranking for a lot of things, and it still
But if
could
I'm
be getting.
looking, well, but if I look at my own analytics and I see like this thing hasn't been visited in 90 days or even a year or more,
Right.
I mean,
So
nobody's
then
looking for it.
that's the kind of thing where you'd probably want to redirect it to a more current page, or a more current thing. But a lot of people, the point I want to make though is a lot of people just assume that page isn't doing well. But you just said you looked at your analytics, and that's exactly what you need to do. But a lot of people are just like, oh, this was from a couple of years ago. Clearly nobody's looking at it. But what they don't realize is that page is ranking for a lot of terms. It's bringing in a lot of traffic. And if you just kill it, you lose all those terms, and you lose all that traffic. You still might get something on the redirect, but it's going to be a watered down version of what you have. So you do want to make sure that it is that situation, that this isn't ranking for anything and nobody's coming to this page organically. And then from there, I would redirect it to a more relevant page.
So don't just delete it, like actually just take the time to redirect it.
Exactly. Yeah. Deleting would be the worst thing you could do, because then Google probably knows that page exists. And if you take it away, then you give yourself a 404, a page not found. And one 404 isn't going to harm any site, because most sites have a couple. But once you start deleting, 50, 100 of those kind of pages, and then you've got a whole bunch of 404 errors, Google gets tired of crawling your site when it realizes all these pages I thought were there are gone.
So if you delete it, because you can update the crawled URLs, right? Tell Google, hey, this
You can
gone.
point the URL to another page, then that's what you should do.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know you can redirect, but okay.
If you like, say like you realize like there's still an opportunity here, like this is good content and I could update it for 2023, do that. that's a
Sure,
great
sure.
opportunity to refresh it, and then like say like updated 2023 sort of thing. That's a great opportunity.
Hmm. Um, do people do they want to see older stuff? Like I was talking about before we hit record, over the years, I've had several SEO experts on. But SEO changes over time. Um, you know, what's the value of having an SEO expert from 2015, still sitting on my website? Does it show just continuity? Like, oh man, this guy's been around a long time, interviewing a lot of people. Uh, or should I take those old ones and redirect them?
Well, from a sales perspective, when you think about creating trust, I think that would create a lot of trust. Your podcast
Showing the older content.
has a ton of episodes, more episodes than the vast majority of the podcasts that I come on, and that's
Right.
impressive. When you can say like, we've been doing it for this long, we have this many episodes, I think that's pretty impressive. I think it instills confidence and instills trust, and you can do the same thing with your content.
Yeah.
Um, I think, and so even not outside of like an SEO perspective, just like when somebody comes to your site, you want them to do something, right? You want them to convert in some way, and the more trust you can build, the better. And I think when you can leverage that you are the expert, right? You have the content, you've been around that long. I think that goes a long way outside of just what SEO or optimization would do.
Is SEO or is video king now? I mean, can people, if they hate writing, can they just make a bunch of videos and put them on YouTube, embed them on their website back from YouTube, get a double dip there, and or are people still reading?
Well, yeah, I think people are reading. People do like video. The one nice thing about video though is that you can take the words and turn it into a transcript. So if you, as you said, if you suck at writing, you can do videos and then transcribe those videos, and that's probably going to give you pretty decent content. You can edit that content for SEO purposes, and I think you could do pretty well with it.
Yeah. What about just images, or like you mentioned, listicles, but like infographics? Man, infographics seem to be everywhere. I don't know, 5 years ago or so, but they don't seem to be as big anymore.
They're making a comeback. Watch, that it's all cyclical. It all comes back, and everyone remembers like, oh man, remember those things, and they were pretty popular and fun. I bet you 2023 will be like the year of the infographic. But it is good to note that having an image for the sake of having an image, or having a video for the sake of having, isn't going to help you rank at all.
Sure. Okay.
Just having that on your page isn't a ranking factor. It's the purpose
It's
of
got to
it.
be good.
The content that's around it is important. So use those, I think, to write better content. To do things that will engage your audience, but don't have them just for the sake of having them.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I've got a couple of your websites. So KyleRoof.com, that's your agency website, right?
It's like the personal brand one, but that will get people to the agency, to the tool,
Okay.
to the courses. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. So that's so we're linking to that. I'm linking to your page, optimizer.pro. You got a 7-day free trial. So that's cool. And you already mentioned, I mean, it's super affordable. Um, should like I've got a big website, right? It would take me forever to optimize everything. Uh, do you just start at the most trafficked page and just work down as you have time? And maybe if I can only do the top 30 before I got a quarter has gone by, and I can just go back and just keep optimizing the heck out of 30 or 40 pages, and not try to get 1,500 pages optimized.
That's exactly how I do it. It's got to be ROI based. Don't just do one just because you think it needs to be optimized. There are a lot of pages on your site that don't have to be optimized, but those ones where like you want to put the time in, this is a money keyword. It's the thing that we want to win. It's going to get us the traffic we want. Those are the ones you want to definitely take time in. And 30 is a pretty reasonable number. You can get in and do that. You can do that, one every other day. And it's not gonna be the most fun 2 months to get 30 done that way, but you can do it. And if it's important to your business, then it's definitely worth doing. But I would definitely make those ROI type decisions and go after those top level ones, the ones that are definitely what you think are going to bring the right traffic to your site.
So is your program is it giving us prompts when we're done? Like add 500 more words, or, go after these, here's some recommended words, or, put 3 more images. Like, are you getting that granular?
So yeah, we actually do get as granular as you want. We have a section of the site that will get right into the nitty gritty. But what most people use, and actually what most top level agencies that use the tool use, we break it down to 4 main sections. Your search engine title, your page title, your subheadings, so your H2s and H3s, those different kind of breaks in the site, and then the paragraph text. We break it into those 4 sections, and we tell you how many times you need to get important terms into those areas, and it will give you the best opportunity to rank your content.
Mm-hmm. And Google is getting smarter though, right? Because I know back in the day, it was like, this is the one word you need, but you get into like your latent semantic indexing and whatever. I mean, you can write like a human, right? And use variations of the phrases. Is Google picking up on that? So you don't just
Certainly.
have to just hammer this 3 or 4 word phrase, because it just seems redundant.
Yeah. Nor should you. It's not the way to rank isn't to like put, say, a target phrase on your page, 20 times. That's never going to do any kind of value for search engines, nor for people coming to try to read the content. I think one of the best ways to do content is to pick your title, work out what your title is going to be for this page, and then do your sections. So in the Roman numeral outline, this is your Roman numeral 1 and your A, B, C, D, that kind of thing. Do those sections and find those questions you're going to answer, or the different topics you're going to cover that are directly related to that title, and then write that. Then go to a tool, and I don't particularly care if people use my tool. That's where they can use my tool there, or they can use any other tool, but that's where you want to do it, because then you're going to edit a little bit for SEO purposes, not where you're kind of trying to write a line and then check it for SEO and write a line, check it for that's going to create content that isn't very readable. So do that, do your outline, fill in that outline, and then you should be pretty close to your term counts. And if you aren't, then you really didn't write a good article. That's kind of that intersection of SEO copy and good copy. You should be pretty close to SEO if you wrote pretty good copy.
Yeah. And now here comes Chat GPT and everything else. So that's going to be a whole new, I don't know what, bag of monkeys.
I wouldn't worry too much. There's nothing AI about AI content, because it's not creating anything. It has to have information, and basically what it's doing is it's spinning that information. So it's finding that information and spinning it. But I was just playing with it. It doesn't know anything from 2023. It doesn't know anything from 2022. It only actually goes back to about February of 2021. It can tell you who won the Super Bowl in 2021, but it can't tell you who won March Madness or who won the Kentucky Derby. So that's because it's not creating, and it's not learning. It's only pulling from information that it already has. So I wouldn't stress too much about that. It's a great way to accelerate your writing a bit, to get kind of like a rough draft, to kind of find some information. That's a great way to use it, and then tweak and do human editing from there and put a human touch on top of it. But I wouldn't stress that Chat GPT or OpenAI right now is going to replace anything anytime soon, especially in terms of like, you writing your own content. I wouldn't stress about that too much.
Yeah. Cool. All right, man. Well, we are recording this on January 2nd, and my LSU Tigers are about to kick off in 2 minutes.
Oh, go get it.
So,
go get it.
I got to end this thing, man. I don't even know what I was thinking leaving my calendar open today, but I'm glad I did. This was good. I'm kind of a closet geek, so I like talking about this stuff. And now I got to come to Thailand, man. I visited my son. He was studying in India for a semester, so I met him out there, and met him in London, met him in Argentina. But he was in Korea actually as well. But I wanted to get out there, go back to my old base, but I didn't make it. But I don't know if my wife will come, but chances are good you'll see me and my son.
Perfect. And I hope you get a lot of 1, 2, 3 first downs coming up.
I don't care about first downs. I want touchdowns, man.
Good stuff.
Bowl games are all weird now, though. It's like kids are opting out, to go pro. I heard some stuff, a couple of dudes, like key guys, that got in some trouble. So one of them is going, he opted for the pros because he was going to be suspended anyway. So
Uh,
bowls, like they don't matter as much. Well, I just have different expectations, right? Unless it's like,
mhm,
unless they're playing for the championship, that they usually aren't playing with the full team. So it's more
sure.
of like, it's more of like the first preseason game of next season,
Sure.
in a lot
Have
of
a
ways. But
showcase of what's to come. Yeah.
yeah, and it's good experience. Like LSU's super young, so this is good for them to get some experience. The quarterback is returning, so I'm excited. So in that regard, I'm optimistic because he had a great season. So it'll be good to see that. But fun time. I love college football, man. I can talk for hours.
I do too.
All right.
I do too.
So KyleRoof.com, PageOptimizer.pro, all the way from Thailand, man. Thanks for taking time. Come on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good one.